I'm gonna give you a choice. You can have the running in the hammer, or you can walk out. You can't have both. Now what's it gonna be? You looking like you came in here, you look like you made a mistake. Fucking right you made a mistake. You see those saws over there? I don't give a fuck if you're a woman. We're gonna use them. We don't fuck around in this place. You got it? Now get the fuck out of here. Tell them she got hit by a fucking bus.
So, the day after I turned 18, I kissed the folks goodbye, got on a Trailways bus, and headed for the big, bad apple. Because I wanted to be a rockette. Oh yeah, let's get one thing straight. See, I never heard about the red shoes. I never saw the red shoes. I didn't give a fuck about the red shoes. I wanted to be a rockette because this girl in my hometown, Luella Heiner, had actually gotten out and made it in New York, and she was a rockette. Well, she came home one Christmas to visit, and they threw her a parade. A goddamn parade! I twirled a friggin' baton for 2 hours in the rain. Unfortunately, though, she got knocked up over Christmas. Merry Christmas! She never made it back to New York. So that was my plan. New York, New York. Except, I had one minor problem. See, I was ugly as sin.
So I came home from the store, and the house was silent, which was strange because everything was great when I left. You were sitting at the table with them, reading, and I thought to myself, oh, this is perfect. The roast was in the oven. You had had a beer. You always have a beer. Were you drunk? I ask myself that every day. Did I knowingly leave him with a drunk person? So again, the house is silent, and I run up the stairs, and you are just standing there. You're standing there in the doorway, and I say to you, why is he in bed? And you just say, I don't know. And I see his shoes coming out underneath the end of the mattress. And I walk over to him and I say, Ethan. And I pull back the covers and his face is shattered, broken. I mean, what happened? He was broken. So I picked him up and I ran down the stairs and jumped in the car and threw him in the back of the car and got him to the hospital as fast as I could. Still, every day I wonder, what happened?
Bravo. Lovely, everybody. What I would like to do, as you're in the circle, just before we conclude this section, is have you take 15 seconds of your speech that you just gave. Any 15 seconds, beginning, middle, whatever. And as you say it, focus on only, while you're saying it, the sensory parts of what you're saying. The smells, the images that are conjured up as you speak it. The sounds that you hear that are conjured up from what you're saying. Whatever we just did earlier, I want you to even do more with any part of your speech. I don't care what it is. Do you know what I mean? Okay? Just about 15 seconds until I just say cut, you know? All right? And we'll shoot it. JJ, first shoot. And only in place, not moving.
Okay.
Only in place. Only in place.
Rogues?
You don't have to look at any person. It might help though if you had somebody in mind, and you don't have to look at them the whole time. Okay? We keep in mind though the eyes are 80% of what we communicate. But for this exercise, it's about conjuring up all the senses as you speak and what that would do. Okay? Here we go.
The rogues slighted me in the water with as little regard as they would drown a blind bitch's puppies. 15 in the litter.
And cut. Good. I would think you need a little more time with that to really be able to see those things you're talking about.
Yep.
Now, I'm slowing you down. And eventually, in a performance, you probably have to now pick it up. But when you're rehearsing, these are things that unless you take the time with now, you ain't going to ever get them. Because it'll always be about pace, particularly with Shakespeare. Once again.
The rogues slighted me in the water with as little regard as they drown a blind bitch's puppies. 15 in the litter. You know, by my size, I have a kind of alacrity in sinking.
Cut. Again, good. But maybe too fast for right now. Later you could maybe do that, but right now, I think to be able to do what I was asking you to do, sinking, that word sinking, to see them sinking, what you're saying.
Well, she came home one Christmas to
Cut.
visit.
All right. In order to do what I'm asking you to do, it's not so much starting. Usually people often think of starting as, well, she came home, right?
Yeah.
First part of your line.
Yeah.
Really, what we know, and it's always hard to remember, is that you start way before well, and the camera and the audience is almost more interested in what happens before well, because it's when they see you in that condition that makes you then say well, that really is interesting. You know? It also, once you get in that condition of what the character is feeling before the line, it's then going to carry through the whole speech. If you just start with that first word, you're swimming uphill. It's going to take you a while to get into that condition. We'll hear words, but you won't be there yet. So your job is to prepare, if you can. Just as when the curtain goes up and you have the first line in the play, you don't just start with that line. You've worked, some actors come 2 hours earlier to prepare for that first line that they're going to do, and that whole life. So you never start anything. It's a continuation of whatever feeling you have. That's what an audience and a camera really embraces, and they love it, and they pay for that. The rest is stuff that they can read in the library. I mean, the only thing we do is a contribution as an actor is we give they can't read that in the library. Because that's not the words, that's something that only we can give them that. And that's what they're paying for when they come to a movie or to a theater. They go read Omar's words, the screenplay, or whatever. but they can't do what Ingy is going to give to those boys. He can't do it. So, once again, take your time.
So start a little bit before that. Do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Camera doesn't start with the first word, or you know what I mean? Get into what if you feel what you're doing. See the people you're talking to. Sense where the character is when she speaks that line. Before you speak it. Sense what was said right before that you heard, that you answer with that first line, if that's the case. Okay, action.
See, I want to be a rockette because this girl in my hometown, Heiner, had actually gotten out and made it in New York.
No. Good. Good. Better. But you told me about that girl, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't see that girl. You didn't remember, as you said, that girl and what she looked like as she went out. Do you know you were saying there was this girl once and she went out. I want you to be able to visualize and remember, because you're talking about things you experienced.
Yeah. Okay.
One more time. Take more time. Really see the girl.
See, I wanted to be a rockette because this girl in my hometown, Mama Heiner, had actually gotten out and made it in New York. And she was a rockette. Well, she came home on Christmas to visit, and they threw her a parade. A goddamn parade!
Bravo. Good. Much better. Very hard to do this because there's still the element of your performance. You know what you want to do with that speech. I think, you know, you've done it before, a little bit.
Yeah, once.
And once we do these things as performances, we know what we want to do with them. It's very hard to kind of mess them up. But in a way, you have to keep messing them. You have to keep messing up your performance to find and experience and make things happen. That's always more exciting than your performance. I'm anxious to see the movie Judy because Renee Zellweger is one of those actors that does what I'm talking about. I never sense that she knows what she's really going to do. It sort of comes to her, you know, at least it seems that way. And Judy Garland is a character that was that kind of character
Yeah.
also. She never probably knew, as much of a craftsperson as she was, a great craftsperson, crazy and Meshuggah as she was, she had a great skill in the craft, but she also was such an animal instinctively. You
She
know?
worked on instinct.
Yeah, she
You never knew what she was gonna do.
never knew, and that made her.
And she didn't know.
And she didn't know, which was dangerous and
Yeah.
scary.
But that's why people loved her.
And that's why they loved her, because she was so raw. So that rawness is what we have to come up with. Hey, smart man. We have to remember, speaking of rawness, there she is. Too sharp. So we have to come up with some way, whether we're directing, and yeah, it is dangerous. I've been fired as a director because I believe, let's just do, no, you can't always do that in a commercial world. Sometimes you gotta be, I like to work just instinctively, but, again, when you're rehearsing, you want to go for as much of this as you can. Much better though. Chris?
I'm gonna give you two choices. You can have the money and the hammer, or you can walk out. You can't have both. What's it gonna be? You're looking like you came in here looking like you made a mistake. You're fucking right, you made a mistake.
And cut beautiful. When he uses that hammer and the what?
The money. The hammer and the money.
The what?
The hammer and the money.
What is he thinking about when he says the hammer and the money? What are the images? And what do they mean to him when he's saying it? Just a little more.
Okay.
Now, you can't do this with every line. What I'm doing, it would take 10 hours. But I think if you can find places where you can do it more than not, and then tighten it, okay? I like to do it when I'm auditioning, and probably one of the comments that I think I have to work on in my auditions is you don't always get a second chance. So if you take too much time the first time, they get nervous. They go, well, is that how you're going to do it? And they go, could you take it again? And then I know I really was a little indulgent, that I had to do more of a performance. It was an audition, and I was kind of really taking more time and finding as much as I could and all that, and forgetting that now I'm performing because it's an audition. So it's always a balancing act. You got to get a little of what I'm asking, but you can't do too much. But now I'm asking to go for broke. See, I'm asking to go indulge yourself in it. See? All right, try it again, Chris.
I'm going to give you two choices. You can have the money and the hammer, or you can walk out. You can't have both. What's it going to be?
Cut.
I have no control over my life, doctor. I keep doing things I don't want to do, but I can't change anything. I try to do the things people want me to do. I end up doing them wrong.
And cut. I thought you found so many colors within that short little section. But I think you have a real sense of how to do that. It's something that you come natural by.
Reach for it and I'll turn around.
Let's cut.
Yeah.
Good. But again, what's the moment before reach for it? You see, that's what I'm looking for. Even if the camera's not going, what made you do reach for it? That moment when you say nothing is a wonderful moment. And you cut that out. You went reach for it right away, whereas something happens that makes you do reach for it. I want to see that moment before. That's part of your piece. You owe it to the audience or the camera. You know?
Okay.
It's a reaction that I want before you say. The reaction is usually more interesting than the action. It's always more, not always, but usually it is. Okay? It's always.
I was just walking down the street. Then I heard a voice behind say, "Reach for it, mister." And I turned around. And there I was, face to face with a 6-year-old kid. Just threw my guns down and walked away. The little bastard shot me in the ass.
And cut, beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Great part for you. Nice.
Go on. Go on to New Orleans. You do man of crazy things, you. And pick up a man on Canal Street. But not at my house. In front of my window. In front of my dead husband's ashes. I'm not at all interested.
Okay. What was the part that you just said that you could do that with the most?
With the most?
Looking back on what the lines were that you just said, what could you get the most emotionally sensory stuff out of? That you could live or visualize what you're saying the most of all of that? What do you think?
Do you want me to do it or you?
No, I'm asking.
Oh, okay. I would say definitely man crazy.
Man crazy.
Oh yeah.
What are you seeing when you say that?
When they're saying man crazy, I'm visualizing Alvaro Mangiacavallo.
You what?
I'm visualizing Alvaro Mangiacavallo, the guy with the truck driver who I had an account with, who reminds me of my husband. So I'm thinking about him.
Yeah, because I was
Yeah.
so fast, I didn't get that.
Okay. All
You
right.
see?
Okay.
If it's too fast, you don't get it. At least when you first do it. Maybe later, after you see, it's a muscle. The senses, you work it, it's like a muscle. By doing it over and over again in rehearsals, trying different things with senses, just like we did on the floor with our senses and everything else, you just can't go, give me senses. It's like an athlete. You just can't say, shoot me a basket, hit me a home run. Acting, it's about developing, these are your instruments that need to be worked on. A lot of people don't realize that. They think it's talent only. But that talent then is all part of what the talent you have still has to be maintained, like a car has to be washed, and a horse has to be groomed. An actor has to be juiced a little. An athlete has to, before the 7 o'clock first pitch, has to come to the stadium at 10 in the morning, get massaged, do his weights, take batting practice, take fielding practice, and then the public comes and they say, okay, let's see the game. And they think these guys run out and play. They've been there 10 hours. They're just continuing what they do. They're not starting. They're continuing. You're starting. You're sitting in the seat. First inning. They've been there since 10. Same with us. Great. Have a seat, everybody. Thank you.
But you didn't come to